How do you generate more B2B leads? Well, I looked at 2,000 plans that we've got in the database for go-to-market. I looked at 500 go-to-market projects that we've done over the last nearly 20 years, and every single one of them is really different. And yet, the pattern's super clear. There are just 6 steps. Let me share them with you now. Well, firstly, B2B is different than B2C, and I just don't know what works in consumer marketing, but I do know what works in B2B, and there are just 6 steps. Number 1, get super clear about what problem you're trying to solve. Number 2, and who has that problem. Work out what angle on that problem they care about the most, because the language really matters. You might have a particular phraseology you love. If they don't, it doesn't matter. Work out what language they want to use. Advertise to buyers who are looking and those who should be. I'm going to explain in the video what I mean by that. Recycle using your blog and or remarketing to a second asset, and outbound only to your very, very best targets. So that's it. What did you expect? Really weird, strange, unnatural acts? That's not what B2B is all about. It's about finding a small number of things, doing them incredibly well, dropping everything else that isn't those things because it's going to waste your time and your money. And that's how to succeed in generating B2B leads. Let me give you a 30-second toot on the details of each of those 6 steps. So what problem do you want to solve? Here's what you do. Write out all of the problems that you could solve for your market. Then rate each of them in terms of how painful they are for the market and how well you solve them, and then choose one problem that is really painful and you're really good or could get really good at solving. Do it together though, because sales and marketing need to have the same view about what problem you're going to focus on. Who has that problem the most? I know everybody could have that problem, but who really, really has that problem? List out all of the businesses that most, not by name, the type of businesses that most have the problem, and the role within those businesses who most has the problem. And by the way, do it together. Again, you need sales and marketing to have the same view about who has the problem the most, and therefore who you're going to target the most. So what aspect of that problem do they care about? Use research, perhaps, or just tests, A/B tests, to find out the version of that problem or the angle of that problem, or even just the articulation of that problem that strikes the best chord with your market. There's simply no point trying to trouble the market about the language that you want them to use. Certainly you can be doggedly focused on a single problem, but what matters is how do they articulate that problem. So you get to choose the problem, they get to choose the language. It matters. Some part of your market are already looking for a solution to that problem. So for them, you're going to advertise, and you're probably going to use search advertising because it captures intent. If they're already looking, you can put an ad in front of them for that phrase. But if they're not already looking, they match your demographic or firmographic, that is the type of business you most think is likely to have that problem, but they're going to be different ads. Remember, the searcher is already looking for a solution. I'll come back to that. And the other buyer who isn't right now looking, but frankly should be, that's the one that you want to show a display ad to. Now these are different ads. Respect where they're up to right now with your ad. In the landing page, you're going to transition from that point to a piece of content. The content is going to go deeper on the problem. But again, make sure your landing page moves them from whatever the ad said to whatever the content call to action is. Respect where they were, where you need to get them to. As you know, that's the buyer's journey. So your landing page then sells them on a piece of content. That piece of content generates a trigger campaign. Now again, whether they came from a display ad because you knew that they should be troubled about the problem, or a search ad because they are troubled about the problem, ultimately we want to get them onto a content journey. To do that, you're going to show a great piece of content really relevant to the problem that you solve, and you're going to send that via email, and frankly in a string of emails. So whatever format that takes, you want to earn the right to send them not one email but multiple emails. Now on the landing page, it doesn't say here's your asset, it says asset's on its way to the email address that you just gave me. But by the way, do you want to talk about it right now? Give them a form then to say, sure, I'd love to have a chat now. Very few of them will, but not zero. So offer it now. Then the asset comes out, and in that first email, great, here's the asset as promised. By the way, would you like to have a chat? Keep offering them emails relevant to the piece of content, but also requesting a conversation. Remember, you're trying to get a lead, and a lead is somebody who wants to talk about the problem that you solve. So therefore, keep asking. 5 or 6 times is perfectly okay. Now, some of those people who went to your landing page or just your website generally, but didn't fill in the form to say, yes, I'd like that asset, they might later, or they might like a second asset. So create a second asset, and with that second asset, a second landing page and a second string of emails. And to everybody who didn't take the first invitation to the first asset, offer them a second one using remarketing. Now, if you don't have their email address, then use remarketing and use Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter remarketing to re-offer the second asset. If you do have their email address, then instead you can send them your blog. Now, the blog is going to be great content that's really relevant to the problem that you solve. Short teaser email, take them to the web page that offers more of the content, but then at the bottom of your blog, you're going to re-offer that second asset over and over and over again. Now, you don't need massive click-throughs. When they're ready, they'll click through. Don't feel like you need to get all salesy on them, but don't fail to make a compelling offer, and write your blog so that it leads logically to a conclusion where the asset offer just makes sense rather than it's some silly add-on. And we are going to outbound, but only to our very best prospects. And for those very best prospects, research them so you can be super targeted in your approach to them. Warm them up using social beforehand. Grab their email addresses and advertise to them using social beforehand to warm them up so that the email is not completely out of the blue. Get some coaching before you send the email, and perhaps you know somebody who knows them who can introduce you. A normal professional introduction doesn't have to be through LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's a great way to find people who are connected. When you finally go outbound to them, make sure that your approach is very targeted, and we use a term from Miller Hyman called the VBR, the valid business reason. And in short, that is, work out why they need to meet you and put that in your email. Now, through this, I've said email. Frankly, test email versus letter versus phone as your cold approach, warmed up by either coaching or social advertising, highly targeted. Again, for today's show, I looked at 2,000 plans in our database, and I reflected on 500 projects that were done over nearly 20 years. And every plan is different, but the pattern is super clear and super simple. Here again are those 6 steps. Get super clear about what problem you want to solve and who has that problem. Work out what angle on the problem they care about and advertise to buyers who are looking and those who should be. Remember, the ad needs to respect what they're thinking. The landing page, though, gets them from that thought to troubling them, and then invites a content download, and then your trigger campaign starts the transition from content to contact. That is, the first part of the email says, hey, how did you find that asset? Maybe it's a white paper, maybe it's an ebook. How did you find it? But the end of that email says, let's talk. Recycle using your blog and or remarketing to a second asset, and outbound only to your best targets that you've warmed up, researched, got coached on, and contacted via either letter or email or phone. Now, in your funnel plan, we've put templated tactics for all sorts of different businesses: SaaS businesses, enterprise, field sales, based businesses, small businesses. Choose the template that reflects the tactics that are closest to the kind of business that you're in. Choose those tactics. Now, if you're in a paid plan, you'll be able to edit the tactics themselves. If you're in a trial plan, you can just choose from the template. But frankly, it's good enough. Now, if you don't already have a funnel plan, you can get a free trial plan. It's a permanent trial. We won't cancel on you. You can use it forever. And as I just mentioned, you can change the tactics, at least at the template level. So if you haven't got one, go here, go to funnelplan.com, check it out. The promise is really clear on that page, funnelplan.com, for a free trial, which you can then upgrade to a paid plan if you choose down the track. But the free trial is good forever, so why not grab one now? Well, that's it for this week. I hope you got value from that. I had a lot of fun putting today together. I genuinely enjoyed putting today's show together, and I hope you did as well. Lots more lined up for next week. Until then, may your funnel be full and always flowing. Thanks this week to Claudia Ivanka for her amazing video production, to Hannah Sivalingam for supervising. Claudia, thank you so much. My name's Hugh McFarlane, and it's been my absolute pleasure to have scripted and presented this week's show.